Welcome, everyone. Good boy, Tucker. This is learning at its most fun.
Automations. Automations are our most advanced tool and most recent tool added to Redtail. Automations are great because it is an if-then statement. So things that are kind of sitting on your to-do list to get to can be thrown into action automatically by the machine based on parameters that you set up. So I like to relate it almost to my email filters, where I have an email inbox. And when I get an email from Redtail, I have a rule in my mailbox that says, if I get a Redtail email, put it in this Redtail folder. So that was a rule that I made beforehand so that every message from that point on from Redtail would go in that Redtail folder. So that's essentially what you're doing here as well. You can see automations create triggers so that if certain events occur, further actions will happen automatically. So what we're looking at right now on the PowerPoint is the screen that you will see, and we will cover all of those tabs and some of the most common uses for automations. So we'll go ahead and jump into the CRM. I know I'm a visual person, so we can start by showing you some of the templates that are available on our help desk. We are on our CRM. You do have a tile or a question mark up here in the top right-hand corner, and you can click on Redtail Help Desk. So click on the question mark, click on Redtail Help Desk. And then you can type in automation templates into the search bar, and we're going to give you a result of those templates. So this is a nice place to start, just so that way you're not reinventing the wheel, but you can have this as a resource to start with. So you can see the first one is dependent on us adding in an activity. We have a process that says, okay, we have a client review workflow that we follow, and we have a client review activity that we use. We are using both because we still need the activity to occupy a time and date on our calendar, but we also need that workflow to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. So what this automation is doing is every time somebody in our office adds in an activity that says client review and is either a phone call client review or an appointment client review, then the client review workflow is automatically going to attach. So I'll demonstrate that so that way you can see I have no tricks up my sleeve. I could just add in an activity and that workflow would automatically attach. So I also like to start by showing you the trigger list. If we go to our name in the top right-hand corner, we can go to manage your account. And if you click on your name and go to manage your account, you're going to want to go to automation templates. So automation templates. And under automation templates, yours will most likely be blank, but you can click add in the top right-hand corner to start to build out a new one. So I like to start by showing you this trigger event list. What we're looking at right now is a fixed list, and this is the if statement. So you want to, study this list to understand what is possible with this tool. If you have a suggestion of what you would want to see in here, you can click on the question mark in the top right-hand corner and suggest that as a feature, just because this is one of our newest tools. So we are working on advancing it with your feedback. But as the system exists today, these will be your options. So if somebody adds in an account, someone adds an activity, a contact, an address, email, and maybe they add in a phone number, those are all available. You also have some for changes. So if somebody changes their address, someone changes their email or their phone number, or somebody changes their status. all of these are available, and the last two are going to be integration related. If you use Money Guide Pro or you use Orion, those can be set up as well. But to start off, we can try we can do a contact status changed workflow. What we can build here is a prospect to client workflow. So if we move someone to client active from being a prospect, we want the onboarding workflow to automatically attach. So what this is saying is, we've been working with this lead. This lead is now interested and they turned into a prospect. The prospect is now turning into a client. So what this is going to do is when I change that person's status from prospect to active, we can automatically attach that onboarding workflow. So this will be the trigger event that I choose. And the next tab I'll go to says do this action. So this is the then statement or the reactive trigger. And this is also a fixed list. So I also want you to study what's available here as well, because you are limited to the options that currently exist. So if you change someone's status to active, do you want to link a workflow? Do you want a field to be set? Do you want an email to go out to a specific user or a team? You could kind of pick which one, but most often we see that the workflows or the automations are really complementing those workflows. So in this example too, we'll link a workflow from an active template, and I have a template in here for onboarding. So what this is going to do is, just to review, if I change someone's status, it's going to attach the onboarding workflow. Now, it's really tempting to go ahead and click create automation right here and be done, but you do not want to do that. What would happen if you click create automation is every single time you change someone's status, that workflow would attach. So that is not always applicable, because maybe I change someone from active to inactive, then that workflow would attach, and that's not appropriate in this example. So we want to make sure that we do not tie our shoelaces together in this. So you want to make sure you add conditions. So on this tab is if all conditions true. This is going to be the one that would be most useful in this situation. So that way we can say, okay, not just every status needs an onboarding workflow, but an active status needs the onboarding workflow. So I'll go ahead and choose the contact status has to equal active and add that condition. So I can create this automation. I can put more conditions as well. If any would be a really good example of this previous screen that I showed, where we're saying, okay, it has to be a client review, phone call, or automation. That's what any does, is it gives you that or flexibility. So you're covering more ground with that any condition. But let's go ahead and create this automation as is. I'm going to click on the recently viewed icon and go to quick list. And let's see if I can grab a prospect list real quick. We'll grab our hot prospects here. And let's say we have Pete here, who we've been working with for a while to turn into a client, and he's finally going to sign on. Well, what I'm going to do next is change his status from prospect to active, and you're going to notice that workflow will automatically attach. So like I said, no tricks up my sleeve. I'm just going to make the change and the workflow will automatically attach. For checks and balances, just make sure you look right here. Right now it says 0 active workflows, but I'll show you how when I change that status, that 0 will turn to 1. So let me click edit and the contact details. Let me change that prospect to active. And update that detail. And we will go ahead and refresh our screen. And you'll notice that 0 turned to 1. So what happened is I changed this person from a prospect to an active client. So it automatically attached this onboarding workflow to him. So that is the idea behind the automations. It's an if then statement, and it's taking those things that are on your to-do list that you probably would forget about because there's so much going on in the day, and it's doing it for you. So just make sure that you understand the triggers that are available, just because that is the list that you're working with, or the possibilities that you're working with. We do have some other samples here that we can show you. I'm going to jump back into the PowerPoint and just cover the automation actions and reactions again. So you can see a lot of them. The top 3 are data related. So what this is saying, or the idea behind this, is maybe we have a workflow that makes sure that we change an address, email, or phone number in multiple different locations, because you know that their information is housed with the broker dealer, they're housed internally with us in the CRM, in our planning software, and a number of other places. So if somebody changes their address, we created a workflow to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. So what these first 3 can do is help with that. If you create a workflow like we did for important information, you can make sure that if somebody does change one of those things, that we make sure it gets saved in all of the different locations. So I'll click the plus sign and add in the workflow here as an example, just so you can see it real quick. We have the important information list. That's what we're calling it internally. But this is the example that I was mentioning where, if somebody changes their phone number, adds a phone number, changes their address, their email, this might be a list that we go through, or it could be similar to this, of places that we would change. So you can consider building something like that as well. That would be something that would complement those 3 nicely. Something like contact added. Something like contact added, we've seen that be used with emailing a team or user, because maybe you have someone that you met at lunch today and you want the whole team to know about them. You can send an email to the team, or if you add in an account, or maybe you add in an activity and you want an email to go out to somebody, you can go ahead and see that. We also have seen set field be used well with contact added. This can be used with setting the field for servicing advisor. We can set permissions even. So maybe you're restricting the viewing access of the clients on your CRM. And you can say, okay, if I add someone new to the system and they have Tucker as the servicing advisor, then I want the permissions to automatically apply for Tucker. So that's something you can consider as well. And same thing with change name or status. Using a workflow or emailing out is something that can be of value as well. So here's a visual representation of what I was talking about using 3 separate options. So here we're saying if we add a contact, set the permission. If we change a status, email a user or team. The example we used was attach a workflow. And here's another one for adding an activity and to start a workflow. So here's a breakdown of the conditions. If all means that all of those conditions need to be met. So, they have to be active and AAA in order for this to attach. Where if any expands it, so it's saying they could be active or prospect. Either one of those, attach this workflow. So one of those fields must match versus all of the fields must match. And here's a sample of what the email would look like. What this is we have an email going out to a team member if we change someone's status. So what happened is we changed someone's status to active for Tim Taylor, and we went ahead and had an email be sent out. So this would be the email that you would receive in your inbox. So really helpful stuff with the automations. If I go back to my name and go back to manage your account, I'll just kind of run through some of the ones that are in here as well. We have in here this client review one, which is going to mimic the one that was represented here on our help desk. So this one is really our favorite as a training team because we think this is great. You just behind the scenes or as pre-work, what you need to do is create a workflow for your client review process. And then you can apply this automation. So you two pre-works, you'd want to create a review workflow, and then you would want to add in conditions. So you would want to make sure maybe there's a category or an activity type that would meet your criteria. So that way you're not tying your shoelaces together per se. So that would be some pre-work you would need to do is add those things to the system. And then when they're added, you would create the automation. This one is a client review automation that's saying, if we add in an activity that is a client review activity, then we want the client review workflow to attach. So when we create this automation and I'm training my team, I'm just training them on, contacting the client, getting their preferred date and time for them to come into the office. So that way I can click on the plus sign, and let me just make sure the sample I use will be a good example. So we'll use Danica as an example. Same thing here, 0 workflows right now. But let's say I talk to Danica, she's coming in next month. I can add in an activity that says client review as the type. And in my condition, I also needed the category that said client review. And then I can go ahead and just add that this is a review and then put her preferred date. So this is why we love this automation internally as a training team, because what'll happen is this target date will even be pooled. So in our workflow, we have the workflow working around the date that she's coming in. So the preparation will happen a few days before and the follow-up will happen a few days after. So right now I'm training my team. If Danica's coming in, all you need to do is add in an activity occupying the time and the date that she's coming in, and make sure you use this type and this category. And as long as you do that, then when we create that activity, we're going to refresh this screen. That workflow will automatically attach. So you can see how much time you can save or how much human error can be avoided here. So Danica automatically has her client review attached to her successfully, and it pulled that target date. So we couldn't be more geeked about that because the machine was smart enough to know I want to pull the date from the activity as the target date in the workflow. So she's coming in on the 17th. The preparation is all due by the 12th, and the follow-up is all due by the 19th. So really great stuff there. When we have a situation where maybe she needs to reschedule, we can go ahead and do that, no problem. I'll just make sure that comes up again. And let's say, she calls in and she wants to move to the next month in September. No worries at all. We can save that activity. So we just changed her date to her new preferred date. And then we can go back to her workflow and change it here. So if you have to remember that they're connected, so this workflow will need to be changed as well. But really exciting to have that feature. And you can play around and see what other things you can do with that, just because, it really will save you time later. So just as some things to tie up, if you go to your name, go to manage your account and go to automation templates, just click add in the top right hand corner and just start checking out these fixed lists. I think that's a good place to start at the very least, just so you can kind of start thinking about how the machine can help you do things. So it won't actually complete things for you or anything, but it will allow you to get things attached automatically. So make sure you do go to our help desk and check out some of these options that are available as samples. You'll notice this one is in case somebody moves to inactive. We have a client departure workflow that we want to attach. This one is saying, God forbid we have to mark someone to deceased. We have a client death workflow that we go through to make sure that we support that partner in their grieving process. We have a client event automation that says if we added an activity that says client event, then we attach the client event workflow. So a lot of these you'll notice are around workflows. So if you aren't using workflows, you might want to start there and build out a workflow, and then you could do the automation. But nonetheless, emailing or setting field is very helpful as well. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time today and have a great rest of the day. Take care, everyone.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day. Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.